Hi, this is Anne with Graphic Design How To, and today I'm going to do something a little different. I wanted to kind of take my time and really show how to do a project, this little project, from beginning to end. And the reason I wanted to do this is because when I was a new user, the little tips and troubleshooting helps, but having a complete project really helped me to learn the programs well. All right, let's get started. All right, I'm going to make a new file. I'll just go to Print, Letter, and then I'll change this to RGB color, which just gives us some richer colors, and I'll create. Now I'll go to File, Place, and the file you're looking for is called sketch.jpg in your exercise files. I'm going to click and drag to just get it on my screen and make it pretty big. And we can always increase the size a little bit, holding Shift. And we'll basically be drawing over the top of this. And this is a good time to open our layers panel and lock this layer so we're never accidentally clicking on it. I'll go to Window, Layers. I'm going to target the layer, which is this little circle right here. And then I'll put my opacity at 40. And then finally, I'll lock the layer right here. Now I'm going to make a new layer, one that we'll draw on. First, I'll draw the sun and all the rays behind it. So I'll hit L on my keyboard to get my circle tool. I'll click and drag from the middle of the circle, holding Shift and Option or Shift and Alt. Alt or Option will help it resize from the center. Okay, and that's pretty close to what I want. Maybe I'll move it over a little bit with my arrows. Then I'll copy this with Command C or Control C and paste behind. It's Command B or Control B. B as in boy. I'll get on a handle, hold Shift or Option, and make another circle behind it. I'm going to go about halfway like this. And then I'm going to do that again. Copy, paste behind, and then drag, holding Shift and Option. Now these next ones out here are a little wider, but we can start out the same way. I'll copy, I'll paste behind, I'll hold Shift and Option, I'll get the top to be about right. And then I'll get on a side handle and I'll hold Option or Alt to stretch it wider. And then to get this to line up a little better, I'm going to just drag this a little lower. If you have strokes on there, you'll notice our strokes are getting bigger each time because we're actually resizing the stroke when we resize the circle. And that's totally fine. But if you don't want that to happen, you can hit S on your keyboard and that'll get you to the scale tool. Then double click. And here, down here in the options, you can set this scale, strokes, and effects. You can just uncheck that. Then your stroke will remain the same size. But I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, I'll do the same. Copy, paste behind. And I'll pull this one out. And then I'll pull this one down. Maybe out a little further and down a little further to match up. Now for the final circle that I make, I'm going to go a little bit outside the drawing because we'll be masking it. So we'll have another circle right here that will cut off this last one. So I'm going to copy, paste behind, and then I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, now I'm going to color these. And to do that, I've saved a color palette that I got from Adobe Color. So I'm going to load that now. And I'll go ahead and close my layers panel. In swatches, I'll come to the flyout, I'll open the swatch library, and I'll choose other library. You'll be able to find this in your exercise files. It's called Adobe Color Illustration Project. And I'll open that. Okay, so here are most of the colors we're going to use. We're going to have to modify these somewhat, but these are basically it. So I'm just going to click on the folder, and then they'll all be added to swatches. And then I can close that panel. The color I want in the middle for the sun will be the cream color. So I'll just choose that one. Now, if you notice you have so many swatches in your panel, you can click off, click the first color that you want to get rid of, go all the way down. I'm going to go all the way down to here, and then I'll just trash these. And we'll say yes. So now I'm left with just like white, black, and my illustration project colors. Make sure you have your fill color in front over here. You can toggle those back and forth with the letter X. So get your fill color in front. I'm going to make this one orange, and then I want this one to also be a color of orange. And then this one will be red, and so will this, and then finally this. But I actually want these to be different shades of these colors. So this first orange, I want to actually create a new swatch. So I'm going to click on this little plus inside the square. Now we're making a copy of and modifying this swatch. I'm going to hold Option and Command, that's Alt and Control on a PC, and I'll click a slider and bring it to the right to lighten this up, but still keep it in the same range, if that makes sense. We'll say OK. Okay, so now we have a light orange and a dark orange. We'll do the same thing with the red. I'm going to add a swatch. I'll hold Option and Command or Alt and Control, and I'll bring it over to the right quite far, I think. We get a preview of what it's going to look like here. Now without anything held down, I'm moving this over to get a more pinkish color. That looks pretty good. And then I'll duplicate that color and then darken it a bit. So I get pretty close to that red. That looks pretty good. Oh, whoops. Okay, so actually I want this to be lighter pink, this darker pink, and then red. So I'll click on the lighter pink I just made, and then the darker pink, and then we have the red. Okay, now I actually do not want outlines on these, so I'm going to select all of them by drawing a square around them, and then I'll hit X to get my stroke to the front, and then I'm going to hit the slash button. That's the same key as your question mark, and that'll remove all the strokes at once. Okay, so the sun is done. I'm going to group it with Command G or Control G, and I'll hide it with Command 3. So it's back there right now, it's just out of view, and you also can't select it. Now I'll work on this house. I'm going to hit M on my keyboard to draw a rectangle. It doesn't really matter right now what color it is. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle out the width of this top part of the roof. And I want these to be aligned. I'll select both and I'll come up here to my control panel and choose horizontal align center. They're pretty close, looks like. Now I'll use my A tool, the direct selection tool, to select just these top 2 points. So I only have these 2 points selected. And now I'm going to scale these. So I'll hit S on my keyboard. That'll take me to the scale tool right over here. And I can hold Shift to move these in like this. Now I'm going to select both of these, and we'll come down to the Pathfinder and Shape Mode unite them into one piece. If I hit Command Y or Control Y on my keyboard, you can see they become one piece. And now I'll hide this with Command 3 or Control 3. Next I'm going to draw these windows. I'll hit M on my keyboard, and I'll just draw a rectangle here. I'm going to copy this rectangle by holding Shift and Option or Shift and Alt. And I'll just bring in the side to make it a little bit smaller. I actually want this one to be 2 windows, so I'm going to draw another rectangle. I'm going to make this rectangle green, so I'll click that and then I'll draw the rectangle. And now I'll select both, and this time I'm going to use the Shape Builder, Shift M on my keyboard, this tool, and then hold Option or Alt and just drag down the middle here. That'll remove the green piece. I'm going to go ahead and select these because I know our house is the same color and I don't want that to be the case. So I'm going to make these green too. And now I'll unhide all with Option Command 3 or Alt Control 3. Okay, and this is what we get. With my selection tool, I'll click off, then I'll click this sun again and hide it with Command 3 or Control 3. Now we're left with just our house, and I want to punch out these windows. So I'll select all of it, both the house and the windows. I'll hit Shift M to get to my Shape Builder. And then with Option held down or Alt, I'll click each of the green places to punch them out. And then I think I want this house to be kind of a silhouette, so I'm going to make it the darkest color. And I'll hide that. Okay, so we're done with our sun, we're done with our house. Now we need the rolling hills. Now these are actually kind of sections of circles, so I'm going to use my circle tool to draw a huge circle and then kind of line it up with the picture. I'm going to remove my fills so I can see what I'm working with. I'm going to hold Option or Alt to make a copy of this, and I want it to be outside this circle. But this is the shape that I want to end up with, this kind of leaf shape. So I'm going to select both of those. I'm going to hit Shift M to get to my Shape Builder tool and Option to remove this piece and this piece. So this is the shape that I wanted. And the way I want to do this, I want to have this section one color, this section maybe the same color, and then this section a different color. And then we'll put black lines on top. So I'm going to make my fill of this one this green. And I don't want an outline, so I'll hit X to get that outline in front or stroke. And then I'll hit the question mark key or the slash. Okay, that looks nice. Now I'm going to copy and paste this. And then I'll hit R on my keyboard to get to the rotate tool. And I'll just click out here and rotate this. I'll get on my V tool to move it, and then I'll get back on my rotate tool by hitting R. I'll click right here at the corner to make an anchor, and then I'll just move this one up. So we have two of the sections done. I'll copy this one. I'll just copy and paste because I'm going to use that for the third section. Then I'll select these two. I'll group them with Command G or Control G, and then I'll hide them. Okay, and here is our last section. This piece is a little less curved, so I'm going to use my A tool, the direct selection tool. I'm going to click off and then click right on the edge so that I have these handles. And then I'll use my arrows to kind of lessen that curve. I'm using the up and down arrow keys. That's pretty close. Now I'll get back on my selection tool and just move this up. Now I want to use this color. If I click this right now, I'm going to add a stroke. So I'll hit X to get my fill in front, and then I'll click the green color that I want. And then I'll hide that. We're almost done with the hills. We just need to add some black lines in there. I'm going to bring everything back with Option Command 3 or Alt Control 3. I'll re-hide these, and then I'll copy these three and then hide them. Now I'll paste in front. So this is a different copy than the one that's hidden, if that makes sense. Now for these hill lines, I just want this top piece. So I'm going to get on my A tool, the direct selection. I'll click this, and I'm going to Command X or Control X to cut it, and then paste in front. Then I'll hit D to give it a white fill and black outline, and you can see what that looks like when I pull it away. We can also hit Command Y or Control Y to see that this is just a line now. So basically I cut that piece out so that I can use it as a line. I'm going to undo and put it back, but I don't need this part anymore. I'm going to do the same here. I'll click right on the edge with the A tool. That's the direct selection. I actually need this little anchor point over here too. So I'm going to cut that. I'll delete what's left, and then I'll paste in front. And then I'll hit D on my keyboard to get a white fill and black outline. And then same here, I'll hit A. I'll get right on the edge there. I'll cut it, delete, and then paste in front. And then hit D. Now actually, I don't need the white, so I'm going to get rid of that by hitting my question mark key. Now we can see a little better what's going on. Now I just want to work on this section right here, so I'm going to select these and hide them with Command 3 or Control 3. I want it to get kind of wider right here and be thin up here, so I'll use the Width tool. That's Shift W, and I'll just click along the line and pull that a little bit wider. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll get back on my selection tool, and now I can just make a copy that goes down here. I'll copy, and then I'll paste in front with Command F or Control F. And then I'm going to rotate from over here. I'll hit R, and then I'll click once right over here to set my anchor point. And then I'll pull this piece down. And I'll just kind of adjust this. I'll hold Option to make a copy right down here. And then Option again to make another copy. And I'll hit R to rotate this one, and V to get back on my selection tool so I can move it into place. I'm going to group these and then hide them. So now I've got this section pretty much completely done. Now I'll work on this section. So I'm going to unhide everything, Option Command 3 or Alt Control 3. I'll click my sun and hide. I'll click the house and hide, and then I'll click the lines, and I'll click these leaves and hide, and this line. And now we're going to work on these. So the process is the same. I'll click it, then I'll hit Shift W. And I'm going to make this just a little bit thicker right here. I'll copy, paste in front, rotate with R, and then I'll hold Option and just drag these down. Then I'll select these and group them and hide them. I'm going to bring everything back with Option Command 3 or Alt Control 3. Okay, and next we'll work on this piece. I've got just this little line selected. I'm going to lock that with Command 2, select everything else, and hide it with Command 3. And then I'll unlock with Option Command 2 or Alt Control 2. I'm going to hit Shift W to get to my width tool. I'm going to just pull it out a little bit here, and then I'll copy, paste in front. I'll set my anchor point over here, and then just move this down. Then I'll hold Option or Alt to make more copies. I'll hit Option Command 3 or Alt Control 3. I'm going to draw a box around my house and sun and hide those. I'm going to click on my leaves in the background and ungroup those with Shift Command G or Shift Control G. That's also up here under Object. It's right here. It's grayed out because they're already ungrouped. I want to group my fields separately. I'm going to draw a box around both my lines and my background and group those. And then hide. Same here. I'm going to draw a box around my darker green and those lines and group those and hide them. And then I'll draw a box around these, group those, and hide them. Now I'll bring everything back with Option Command 3 or Alt Control 3. Okay, we're getting very close. I'm going to move my little house up a little bit. Now I need to make some little clouds. So I'm going to select all of this and hide it. I'll hit M on my keyboard to get my rectangle tool. And I'm just going to draw the bottoms of the clouds. With my A tool, direct selection, I'll select the upper left corner. And if we zoom in on this, you'll see this little corner widget. And I'm going to move this all the way down like that. Same over here, I'll select just this corner with my A tool, direct selection, and move that corner widget all the way down. Next, I'll get my L tool to draw some circles. I'll start right about here. That looks good. And right about here. And I'm going to use this circle, hold Option or Alt, and copy it right here. And then I'll copy this one too. Next, I want to cut the bottoms off here, so I'll select all of this. I'll hit Shift M on my keyboard to get my shape builder. I'll hold Option to subtract, and then I'm just going to go over the bottoms like this. And I don't have anything up here that needs to be subtracted. Then I'll draw a box around the whole cloud. I'll come down here to Pathfinder and unite it. And I'll do the same with this other one. Option Command 3 or Alt Control 3 to bring everything back. I'm going to select both clouds, and then I'm going to make these both the cream color. And let's go ahead and add some little stars. So I'll hit L on my keyboard to get my circle tool. Then I'll go to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Pucker and Bloat. I'll put this at about -52 and say OK. I'm holding Option to make a copy of these. So this is almost done. I'm going to select all and hide. And then I'm going to draw the circle to mask everything. I'll hit L on my keyboard. I'm going to click as close as I can to the center, hold Shift and Option or Shift and Alt to draw from the center. And that looks pretty good. Now I'll bring everything back, Option Command 3, Alt Control 3. Now this is my mask. It has a fill, it's just so you can see it. But when we mask things, it'll disappear. I'll just make it pink for now. Now I'll draw a box around everything, and then I'll hit Command 7 or Control 7 to mask. To kind of bring it all together, I want to add a dark outline. So to do that, I'll use my group selection to click right on the edge of that mask, make a copy, then click off, and then paste in front with Command F or Control F. I'm going to bring my stroke to the front by hitting X, and then I'll click on the darkest swatch. Then I'll increase my stroke. That looks pretty good. Now my stroke is separate from my mask, which is what I want. I'll select everything and group with Command G or Control G. And now we have our little illustration, and that's it. All right, I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions and comments, just leave those in the comment section below and I will try to answer those. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.